Very nice of you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Shkach for all those. I almost feel like it was a Squid Game. Was that what it was on Netflix? Was that the term? Everyone's already made it this far, so we're over halfway through Shas, and now it's like the big change gears from Nashim to Nezikin. So we start off with. Unfortunately, most of my time in yeshiva is always we were learning Masechtas and by whatever Yivamas and Kedushin. So, but now Seder Moed, I'm not as familiar as Seder Nashim, but let's move ahead. So, no, they do, but you do like Hakones. I did that, but in yeshiva they do it. I just never did. When I was there, it was always the kid. It just happens to be here. Yeah, I never did Baba Kama in yeshiva. Last time I was with Rabbi Siegel in 5th grade when he taught at Hillel Torah. Yeah. That's how long ago. This is my 15th year in high school. So Arba Avos Nezikin. So we're starting off. Beis Amud Aleph. Last word, first line. So Arba Avos Nezikin. So there are 4 Avos Nezikin, which will soon actually have to sort of redefine that term of Avos. So it means basically categories, like we find by Shabbos. No, we need more. Eddie's going to come. I said Eddie's going to come and expect. I looked there, and they're like, they don't have. Oh no, the comment was really interesting. Maybe the library. Yeah, it could be the library when they want to share. So Arba Avos Nezikin, Hashor, Vahabor, Vamava, Vaver. So the 4 categories are an ox, right? One's animal, right? A boar. These are items that could potentially, right, cause damage to somebody else's property or to somebody else or to somebody, right, to anything. So one's animal, right, that's his property, or a pit, right? Someone goes ahead and he digs a pit, right? That pit can go ahead and cause damage, right? Someone could fall in the pit, right? Someone's animal could fall in the pit. Or so the next case, the Hamavi is actually machlekes in the Gemara as to what this is. Right, either it's referring to a person or referring to animal eating, to shame, and also a fire. Right, so fire also is one starts a fire. Really, you should be watching over it. It can cause damage, so one could be responsible for fire. And we don't find the damages of an ox like that of Mava, in other words, which we just said is either basically maybe an animal causing one's teeth or a person himself. And also the qualities, we'll soon see the qualities of Mava is not like that of Shor. All right, in other words, each cat, those are unique, and the Gemara will point out the unique differences of them. And not those two, that those are a living object, whether it's an animal or himself, similar to a fire, which is not right a living being. And not also all these 3, right? Let's say one's animal or oneself or one's fire. That's something that sort of that can move, right? That can move, that potentially move. Fire can move with wind. It can travel. Which is like that of a pit, because a pit cannot go ahead and move. It's by definition stationary. And that's not a Shavahen. So what's the common denominator amongst all these 4? Shavahen. Right? The common denominator is that there is by its nature to cause damage. And the guarding of it is upon you. And therefore, if you go ahead and it does cause damage, the damager is obligated to go ahead and pay to pay for the damages, the meitivaris, right? With the I guess the choice here of the of land, right? The person has to go ahead and collect payment from land, so we say meitivaris. Fine. So that was the first Mishnah. Zok the Gemara. So Migtani Avos, by the fact you said Avos, right? Once you say there's heads of categories, so Miklal Dika Talados, right? Then there must be these subcategories. So they'll say so are the subcategories the same as the Avos? In other words, it's just sort of an organizational thing, or lav kiyaitzivan, or is there actually a halachic nafkamina whether one damages it was an av or whether it was a talada? So Gabi Shabbos. So let's turn to an example of Avis and Tolados. By Shabbos tonight we learn in the Mishnah. It says Avis Malachas Arbaim Chaser Achas. So it says there are 40 minus 1. There are 39 Malachas of Avis Malachas. Mechlal Dika Tolados. Over there we learn the Tolados. And they'll say I'm Tiyaitziben. And the Tolados are similar to them. So Loishna L'Chayra, the Tolada of an Av Malach is the same as it. Loishna Av Chatas, Loishna Tolada Chatas, right? If you go ahead and commit an Av Malacha, you're Chayv Chatas, and the same thing if you commit a Tolada. Loishna Av Skila, or if you commit an Av, you're Chayv Skila. If you're given the proper warning, Loishna Tolada Skila, also Tolada is also Skila. So my Yikab ben Av Tolada. So what is there an Nafkamina than Av Tolada? So Nafkamina. Dilu of each day avos bahadi adadi. If one goes ahead and does two different avos melachas at the same time, inami or shtei talados bahadi adadi, or he commits two different talados from two different avos at the same time. He should be chai for each and every. He's chai for each one. Dilu of it av the talada di day. But if you commit an av melacha and it's talada with it, you're only chai of one. So it does. There is not. I love the Eliezer. According to Eliezer, the Mechayiv Talada. So according to Eliezer, it says you are Chayiv for Talada even at the same time as an Av. So my Karele Av. So why is it called a Av? My Karele Talada. So the Havi Mishkan Chashive is Chashive Karele Av. So that was done in the Mishkan, right? The 39 actions that were done in order to assemble the Mishkan, right? Whether it was dying or other malachos, right? The planting, whatever it was. So those things are considered to be avos malachas and haf mishkan chashive karalei talad. Now, which is not in the mishkan, there they call it talad. So that was by Shabbos. We see this difference in nafkamina between avos and talados, right? So what about so another example? So gabe tumas tanan by tumas says avos hatumais hasheres vashichos zera v'tamimes. By avos hatumo, so we say that sheretz, one of the creepy crawlers, a shechazera, or semen, right, from a man, right, the tummy mace, and also the corpse. Tolaseyam lav kiyatzibem. The talados that come from them are not like them. Why? Tilu av matame adam mekalim, because an av could be matame, a person and utensils. Talados eichlin mashkim. But when it comes to talados of those, of food and drink, it could be matame, the talados. However, it cannot be matame a person or utensils. So hachamah. Over here, what is the situation? Fine. So we get into today's sugya. We are days and days, 4 lines from the top. Amar Rav Papa says Rav Papa, the statement which we're going to try and figure out. Yesh mahan kiyetzi behen v'yesh man lav kiyetzi behen. Right, there are some talados that are the same as its av, and there are other ones that are not. Right? So he's sort of very vague, did not corner himself. So he did not explain as to which avos by Nezikin are the same as the talados. We have to also see what are the avos, what are the talados, so what is not. So he said some are similar and some are not. So now let's see which. Now when we say are not, notice there would be a difference. Let's say if one damaged, right, the classic av, you'd be chai, let's say for full payment, and for whatever reason, if the talada of that category caused damage, you wouldn't be obligated in the same way. All right, so let's go see. So Tanu Rabban, Gimel Avos Nemru B'Shor. Now, we called Avos, right, in the Mishnah, and the first one was your ox, right, your animal, right. So over here, we're actually saying that there's actually 3 avos, right, within shor. So what is that? Ha-keren, ha-shein, ha-rega. So keren, right, the horns, right, i.e. goring, ha-shein, l'chayra is eating, and regel would be walking. So these are the categories of the avos of shor. So Keren Minala, and so what do we see? Keren Minala in the Tanu Rabbanan. So it says Kiyigach, right? So it says the pasuk says Kiyigach shor es ish es isha, right? We assume to see a couple of psukim. So it says it gores a person, and a negicha elabakeren. And what does Yigach mean, right? We know it because we've taught it, but how do we know that this lashon of Yigach, it does something, right, to cause damage to a man or a woman, it kills them, right? That's start with the horn. She now says V'yasla Tzidkiyo Ben Kanani Karne Barzel V'Yomer Koma Hashem Be'ela Tenagach Es Aram Tenagach Es Aram. So it says Tzidkiyo said, take these horns, these metallic horns, right, and go ahead and use these to go ahead and gore, right, the Aram. And furthermore, another passage says, "B'chor shara hadar loy v'karnei reim karnav b'hem avim yinagech." So it says over there, pasuk. So the first pasuk was from Malachim by Tzidkiyo. Tzidkiya. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
It's the last paragraph.
I could barely point out whether it's whether it's in Torah Nevi'im or Ksuvim. I mean, yeah. Sadly, my education, I went to Hilton Ida Crown. The last time I learned Navi was in 5th grade. All right.
Well, this time.
Last time I learned Navi was in 5th grade in a class. You're right. No? I should join you if you give a class. Maybe I'll join a daily before davening, 6 o'clock maybe. We'll see. All right. Anyway, and then there's another pasuk. It says and then another pasuk says so. So it's So it says over there, right, that the horns, right, the horns of the rain will go ahead and be used towards the nations. Karnei rain. Which is what?
Straight horn.
Straight horn, but the Karnei rain will be used against the nations. So first of all, so we just tried to prove that Yigach is a lashon of goring, right? So the question is, why'd you have to bring two psukim? So if you want to say, hey, why did you bring a pasuk from Malachim, right? And maybe we can't bring any proofs from from Divrei Kabbalah, right? Maybe we from Torah, right? And therefore Tashma can listen. So you want to say it's behind me, so yeah, that's one thing when you're trying to learn now. A pasuk or a limud, right, or halacha, right? This over here, we're just talking about what the usage of the word means, right? So it's not a question of learning. We can only learn from Divrei Torah, not Divrei Kabbalah. It's just showing you how this word is used, right? Kilu milsa b'yamahu, the negicha b'kerenu. It's just telling you that negicha is done by Karen. Ella, rather, what do you say? The same what you said. Maybe so. Now this first pasuk, he says, take a horn and use it against, what was it used against? Aram. So now when a person, right, human takes a horn, obviously they're not using. It's not their own horn, right? They're taking a detached horn and using it as a weapon, right? So maybe you'd say that, maybe when the Torah is mechalek between something which is tam, right? So not most animals, it's not by nature, they're not goring animals. So therefore, if an animal gores for the first time, right, it's tam, it's unexpected, right? It's not something that's completely out of the realm of normal, but it's unusual behavior, right? So therefore, so there's limited liability in such a case, as opposed to an animal is known to always gore, a muad. So therefore, I know this animal's goring. If I don't watch it for 20 minutes, it's going to go ahead and gore, right? So maybe when the Torah says it's only detached, and that was the pasuk there because it's talking about a detached horn, and maybe that the yigach is referring to something which is detached. Something is attached. Maybe I would say anytime it's attached, whether it's the first time offense or fifth time. Maybe it's mulas tashma, and therefore can listen b'chor shara hadar b'chulei. In other words, therefore we have the second pasuk to say no. Anytime it says yigach, all the pshatim of yigach apply, and therefore ben tamuad is even covering a horn that was attached, right? So fine. Fine. Middle of the page. Talad the Karen. So now those are the avos by shore. Now let's go into each one. So talad the Karen mahi. What are the taladas of Karen? Mahi. Of horn. So negifa, neshicha, revitza, ubiyata. Right? Negifa is basically pushing, right? Let's say an animal pushes over a fence, right? Or neshicha are biting, right? A revitza is like crouching down. Ubiyata is kicking. So these are taladas of goring. Right? Even though it's not the same, right? It's not the same, what one is done with its feet or its body weight versus, the horns on its head. Nevertheless, Over here, these are toladas. Now,
So what this is subcategory?
these are subcategories of
the Karen
of just Karen,
Karen.
of just
Right,
the
no,
horn.
I'm saying
Yeah,
then we'll have
those
Shen.
three. Right. Then we're gonna do shane. Right. Exactly. Right. Which.
Kicking.
Right. Yeah. So we'll soon see what are the qualifications to categories. Right. You know why this one versus that one. Now. Ma'ishna negicha the karlev. So why is negicha called an av? So first of all, this is a side point, right? The pasuk says kiyigach, right? It says kiyigach. So it says negicha nami ksiv, right? Kiyigof, right? We just brought the pasuk over there. The pasuk. We didn't bring the pasuk yet, right? Pasuk in Shmos Lamed Hey, pasuk Lamed. Excuse me. Perak Chaf Aleph pasuk Lamed Hey says the kiyigof shor ish es shor yehu. When it's yigof, a fellow shor, right? So it sounds like the same thing. Maybe it pushes another animal, just like it gores a human, right? So hi, Gemara says no. Hi negifa. Actually, you misunderstood that word. That word of a chiyigov shor ishes shor yehu is not referring to when an animal pushes another animal. That refers to actually an animal gores another animal. So that lashon of negifa, right? Do not be confused with the negifa that's used by the Amoraim in our Talmud, right? Rather, it's referred to the pasuk over there, which is actually a goring itself. The time in the Brisa says pasuk negifa. The first pasuk over there, pasuk Lamed Hey says v'chiyigov shor ish shor yehu. The side of negicha, you read along the next pasuk, it says I know the kishor nagachu mitmol shilsham. Right. So over there, the next pasuk, mamish pasuk Lamed Vav, uses the pasuk of negicha. So Nagifa and Nagicha are both used in the same context as goring. The Maishna Gabi Adam the Chsiv Kiyigach. Why does it say Kiyigach by a human? Maishna Gabi Beheva, it says the Kiyigof. So Adam they say Mazla Chsiv Kiyigach. So a person who has mazel, he can sort of he has mazel. He's also able to go ahead and see. Okay, this animal is. I'm going to.
Run away
All right, this animal is going to potentially charge me soon. I can prepare for it, so he can see it. So therefore, it's born about. However, the heba, the last name mazel, but an animal doesn't have mazel. See, you go right. It's an occurrence. It's something that's unpreventable. And by the way, also saying as a teacher that the muad la'adam havi muad la'behema. If the animal gores a person, once it gores a person, now it's considered to be a goring animal, even regarding other animals. However, muad la'behema. However, if it gores another animal, the lo havi muad la'adam. Maybe it only gores its fellow animals, but it's not known or proven to gore a human. Fine. So that was so. Okay, so negicha we say is we went back to say it's a talada of negicha, right? Negifa, right? Pushing. Right? So now the Gemara says neshicha talada sheni, right? Well, shouldn't the neshicha biting be part of shane, right? Which is l'chayra, right? Shane means teeth, but maybe it's like eating, right? Whereas it lo shane yesh hana lahazika ha'ein hana lahazika. No, it's different. When the damage is caused by an animal eating, the animal is eating for pleasure, right? But when you go ahead and you bite, you're not biting for pleasure, right? So therefore, maybe it's different, right? When you're goring, you're not goring for pleasure, right? Unless you're a sadistic animal, right? So over here, right? So we're saying that it's a different quality. So the Gemara says, "I revita biyata to the regel," right? I think Mark. These were your questions, right? Is that what you asked before? It was Mark, right? So he said, crouching and kicking, right? Why isn't that talad the regel, right? Why isn't that considered to be a subcategory of regel, which means foot, right? You kick with your foot, right? You crouch down on something, you lower your body with your feet. Of course, says no, love, that's not true. Regel is zika matzui. So honey and zika matzui. So regel, walking, when an animal walks through your field and crushes your vegetable garden, so that's normal behavior for animals is to walk. It's not normal behavior for an animal to see an item and crouch down on it or to kick it over. So Ella, so therefore, in all these we just said, there is no difference between its halves. So Ella tosem lav. So Ella tosem lav kiyatzim. So Ella. So rather that tosem lav kiyatzim. So when we say the taladas are not like their avos. So damara papa ayah. So what is it going on? If it's going on these and these are different. So maishna karen. So what's the difference? By Karen, by a horn, where its intention is to damage, and it's your property. and its guarding is upon you is your responsibility. So haninami kavanas and lazik. So to all these that we just mentioned, right? They intended to damage, and then they're your property, and therefore you're required to go ahead and guard it. Ella talada the care and to care. Rather, we must say that all these subcategories, the biting, the pushing, the kicking, all those of an animal, is really in the same category as the av itself. So we swung and missed over there. Maybe Rav Papa, Ashen v'regel. So maybe he was talking about Shane and Regel. So Shane Regel, Heicha Ksiva. So where is that in the Torah? So now the avos are really referenced to items that are really written in the Torah. Right? I don't know if I think I said that earlier, right? So in other words, we said ki yigach, we brought a makor that the negicha, that goring is one of the avos because it was mentioned in the Torah. So where do we see that Shane and Regel is a reference to the damage caused by your animal eating or your animal trampling over someone else's property? Where do we see that? So Shane Regel, so the Tana Leonard Brisa says, so the pasuk over here says, right? It says the shilach. So it says over there, kiver ish sada or keren v'shilach es beira, right? Zaharegel. So he sends, referring to an animal, right? He's animal walking through. V'chedu aimer mishalche regel hashor v'achamor, right? So similar, it says over there, a pasuk in Yeshai, it says over there that that is referring to the walking, right? Mishalche regel hashor v'achamor, right? And it says ubir zeh hashem, right? And then we said over there that ubir is that is referring to Shane in that pasuk over there, right? Because it says kivar isha de okerem, right? So it says the word over there, right? Ubir is Shane. V'cheinu oimer kasher yivaer hagol ad tumo. So it says over there, right? Until the over here that the over there the tooth, right, which is sometimes over there because I guess sometimes it's revealed, sometimes it's covered, so it's referring to something which is sometimes covered or revealed, which is teeth, right? When one smiles, he reveals his teeth, right? So it's over there is referring to that which the animal goes ahead ad tumo, right, until it consumes it, right, until it consumes it. That was this two different shot in the Rashi means that was the first one. So we see over there. So therefore, there is a makor for, right. So that pasuk shows that the damage that was done by Shane and Regel. Now, Amar Mar. So it says over there the shilach zaharegel. So it says over there shilach regel. So Tara the Kasa Rachman Meshalche Regel Hashor V'Chamor. So it sounds like over there only why? So only because this pasuk told us that is referring to Meshalche is referring to Regel. That's the only reason why I thought so. Halav hachi, right? I understand. If it wasn't for that, my Makimsa, right? How would you have thought this damage was? E keren ksiv. If we're talking, so e keren ksiv, e shen ksiv. So it was referring to goring or shen ksiv. So why would I need that? It's true. So what would I need? That's the question. Now it's exalted. So I mean, be ashay. Right? Maybe both of these were reference to Shane. And maybe one is the case of Shane, but one is completely consumed and one is not consumed. In other words, maybe you need to teach us both cases, right? That if an animal completely consumes something, so therefore, right, it's no good. But the other times, let's say it causes damage by eating it, but it did not go ahead and consume it. So Kamash Malon, right? Therefore, you're so maybe I would have thought otherwise. So therefore, it's teaching the other pasuk. For Hash, the kingdom of Regel of Shane, to La Mechaya Karda Minolan. So now, okay, you taught that. So how do we know that in case of right the walking or trampling or Shane that it's not completely consumed? So how do we know that? So do me the Regel. So ma Regel Lishna Mechana Karna Lishna La Mechana Karna. Just like by Regel, it doesn't make a difference whether it's when it tramples it. Right, your vegetables are still there; they're just trampled upon. Right? So too by eating, it doesn't matter whether the animal consumes it all or just sort of ruins it by putting it in its mouth and spitting it out and now being not useful. So Amar Mar, we said, and now we're going to do the other way. So ubir is Shane, and we said ubir is referring to Shane when it consumes it, referring to eating it. Right? So Tam the Kasar Rachman Kashi Yivar Hagal Atuma, only because you brought the pasuk. But if it wasn't for that, how would you have said this pasuk is referring to? right? Eat Karen Kasiv, eat regular Kasiv, right? In other words, right? What you want to say? We're talking about Karen, right? Well, we already had the other pasuk of Yigach, right? And you want to say Regel. We just had the other pasuk of the Sheila, right? So we already have psukim for Karen and Shane. So why would I have thought? Why did you bring a pasuk? I couldn't have. There was no other way to understand the pasuk. The Gemara says no. Eitzrich, you still maybe even need the pasuk. Why? Maybe both these are talking about Regel. And high does it mela, and the high is Shalcha. Maybe one case is you can be chayiv when I send it, right? When I send it, I send my animals. I want to, take them, move them over another mile. So, I hit them to go and move. So then I'm chayiv. But maybe if they go on their own, maybe I'm putter, right? So therefore, if that's the case, if I would have had to, maybe I could have thought potentially that I needed two psukim to teach me that regel. One is chayiv for. One in the case of when I send them out, and one in the case when they go by themselves, right? So therefore in that case, so therefore, so Kamash V'lon, that no, one is referring to Shane and the other is referring to Regel. The Uki Ashain and the Regel, right? So okay, so now that you actually establish a Shane and Regel, so doesn't Mela Minolan. So how do you know the Regel when it goes on its own Minolan? So do me the Shane, some the Shane. Ma Shane Loishna Shalcha Shaluche Loishna doesn't Mela. Just like my Shane, my animal goes out and eats from their vegetable patch. Doesn't make a difference whether I told my animals to go ahead and eat from there or they just eat on their own. Afregel, so too by Regel Loishna Shalcha Shaluche Loishna Azam Mela. It doesn't make a difference in this, whether I send them or not. I lichav Rachmana v'shilach v'loy bayu beer the mashma regel mashma shein. So why don't you say v'shilach, right? And don't mention over there that consume it. Maybe over there means both that regel and shein. So mashma regel duksi. How do you know that? So mashma regel duksi mishalchi regel ashur b'chamor. So he says that over there it was walking. It says mishalchi regel ashur b'chamor. Mishalchi shein duksi v'shein behemas ashlachem bam ashlach bam. Right, and that so the pasuk in where's Zeno, right over there, right at the end, right. So over there, I should have known that, right?
Yes, twice.
Yeah. Which Leo is it? Is it? Huh? I do Rishon, and they all started, I think, learning of like Shishi or something. When's the Shira? Yeah, right. Not completely my fault. All right. Anyway, I really only blame me the oldest. The second one, I was already like, clean my hands. Before I had the bar mitzvah, after that, it's like, right. So Gemara says, right, so we already have psukim for V'shilach, maybe it can be both. So Ilab, Pro Yisera, Havamina, Oha. Maybe one or the other can be both. Oh, Regel, the Ziko Matsui. Oh, Shade, the Yeshan, Oha, Ziko. Maybe it's either going to go ahead and meet Regel because that is something which is normal, right? Very common. Or we're talking about, eating, which is done for its benefits. However, so I understand. So shkulinhain, so they're sort of like even ground, right? One is common, the other one's done for anah. So v'yavushnem, the high nice amivkas, right? Now, which one would be excluded? So the rest is now eating. Sal kadai, so hani mili heichel shach shluchin. Right, that's only when he sent azla mimela lo. But maybe if it goes on its own, so kamash malon. So therefore, come to teach you that no, even in this case, even if it goes on its own, both shein veregel he would be chayav for. So now we covered that shein veregel are indeed from the Torah. They're both covered there for the word mashal or shluchay, right, from v'shilach, right, and therefore they're both avos, right. So now we still have to go back to understand Rav Papa's statement of some talados are like they're avos and some are not. So we already covered by Karen; they're all identical, right. The goring is the same as the biting and the pushing and the crouching. It's all the same. But let's say talad the shein mahi. What's the talad of shein? So so let's say the animal goes up and rubs up against a wall for its own hana, or let's say it goes ahead and rolls around in peiros for its own pleasure, right? So now these are things that are, let's say, shein, right? When an animal shein and consumes, eats, is doing for its own pleasure. So the animal wants to go ahead and scratch its side, its back, right? So it goes up against a wall and knocks down the wall, or it goes in someone's garden patch and it rolls around in their pumpkins or whatever it is. So then it ruins that. So my shane v'yesh. So what's the difference in shane? So the yesh hana lahazika man chamishmes alacha. So haninami yesh hana lahazika man chamishmes alacha. That just like by shane, right? That it's for hana and it causes damage. It's you own it and it's your responsibility. So too these also the cases of rub it up against the wall or rubbing in the either the mud. So ella talad the shane k'shane. So what's the case of talad the shane k'shane? So kigama rapapa talad the regel. So maybe we're talking about so Rapapa was referring to shade. So maybe by regel. So talad the regel. Mahi, what's the case of talad the regel? So zika begufa derech chilucha. So let's say he goes ahead and it damages with its body while it's walking. In other words, it doesn't damage right that which it walks upon, but maybe it knocks over things when it's walking, or besara derech chilucha, or with its hair, or b'shliv shalal, or the what's it called the saddle, right, or or the load that's on it, right? But prubia shapia, or right, maybe that's covered in kagufa, the shleif, right? I think that's like a package. So in this case, right? So all these items, right? A prumbo shapia, a bazuk shabatsaro is a bell, and it's carrying a bell, and the bell knocks over something, and so those are taladas of the regel. So ma'ishna regel. So what's the unique characteristic of regel, right? The hezika matzu mancha shmes alecha. So haninami hezika matzu mancha shmes alecha. Just like by walking and trampling is common, so too these are common, and it's your possession, and therefore the responsibility is upon you. Ela talad the regel keregel. So therefore we must conclude that talad of regel is just like regel. So v'chikama rapava talada the boar. Maybe he's referring to the talada of boar. All right. So now, right, we had shore was like sort of split up. The av of shore, which our Mishnah called an av, is actually we just said is really defined as the avos are also keren, shane, and reg. So now moving on. So maybe the av of boar, right, which is a pit, right. So we say maybe referring to av of the boar. So you. So if we're talking about a case of where the av was asara v'talada teisha, if we're talking about that, is that the av malacha was don't go ahead and dig a pit that's more than 10 tefachim. Right? You pick one that's 12 tefachim or 15 tefachim, that's a longer drop down, and therefore you're chayiv. But 9 was never mentioned, so maybe 9 is a talada. Right? So light test ksivi, start ksivi. I understand, but it doesn't say either one. It doesn't say in the Torah how much. So where's the no haloi kasha? So that's not a kasha, right? So the pasuk says v'amesi yalo, right? And the dead animal will be his. Amrachmana v'kinle the rabbanan, and the rabbanan, the Masar, they were certain that asara of the misa, that 10 qualifies, normal to kill. Tes and the zika avdi misa lo avdi. That only damages and does not kill. So where it says okay, fine. So if so. Za'av l'misa v'za'av l'zika, but l'mais in the end. So one is reference to killing, right? But the other one still causes damages, right? Ella, right? So maybe we're talking about something else. So rather we're talking about Ella, Avno, Sakino, Umaso, Shanicham b'shizarab. Maybe we're talking about a case where he leaves, let's say, a stone, or his knife, or his package, or something, his rifle, something. Right? He leaves in the he leaves it out in the Rishus Rabim, and that causes damage. So what says Heichidami? If he went ahead and he made it hefker, so bein the rab, bein the shmuel, hainu bor. So that's the case of bor, right? The person goes ahead and digs a pit in Rishus Rabim, so it's not his item, right? It's ownerless, right? The Rishus Rabim is ownerless. I didn't acquire the Rishus Rabim by digging a pit there, right? It's ownerless. And so too, if I had something, I leave it, it's ownerless. And therefore, if an ownerless item that I created causes damage, I'm chayiv. So too, these items which I created, made ownerless, also they cause damage, should be the same as bor. Let's turn page. And if he did not go ahead and make it after, so if he still owns it, so if it's according to Shmuel, the machlokes later on, so we'll talk about a case over here that it would be just like his bor, any sort of hazard that if he owns it, that even if he still owns it, so therefore be the same as bor. And Ilarav, the Amar Kula Misharlam Doni, he says, no, we learn it from an animal, right? Just like my animals, my property causes damage, so too my knife that I left out caused damage, so do I'm chayiv for that. So Hainu sure, but those are both the same. both these cases, miman of shach, if I leave it out, I'm chayiv for it. Whether I'm chayiv because it's bor or I'm chayiv because it's shor, I'm still chayiv for it. So the talada is still the same as the av. So what is the case, Rav Papa, where the talada is different than the av? So Maishna bor, why do you say bor? Right? Then why would it be similar to a bore? Because a bore is something that its initial creation was something that could potentially damage, i.e., I dig a pit, right? And it's my responsibility, and therefore I have to watch it. So to over here, that leaving these items out, also one would be high for. So Ella, Talada, the bor, Kabor.
It's not Nasiya. The bor was the Tchilas Asiyas on the Nezek. These are just putting some stuff there. You're not like
Maybe the placing of it is this year, right? A bigger kash is the bigger kash is mamoincha, because in the case of bor, it's not mamoincha, right? So this is just a rabbit, right? So this is kash over there, right? How to understand mamoincha. But Ella Talada, the bor, right? Rather, we must say that the pit is just like. Right, the pit and the chi kamer of Papa was or Papa going out talada the mavet. We're talking about the talada of mavet now, right? So we go back to the Mishnah, right? So the first one we said was a shore, which we subdivided in three categories. Went through all three of those avos, right? And none of all those talados were the same as the av, right? And then we just did bor. So now we're going to the next category. And this is the one we did not define in our Mishnah. So rather, it would talk about mavet. So my new, what is this mav? So either Shmuel, if it's going to Shmuel, the Amar mav as a shade is referring to Shane, right? Which we saw earlier, Shane, right? We suggested Shane was part of Shore, right? So either Shmuel, the Amar mav is a shade, Hakina Talad the Shane is Shane, right? We already said the Talad of Shane is the same as Shane, right? That was basically, causing damage for the benefit of the animal, right? And Ilu Rab, Damar Mav is Adam, if according to Rav Adam, Samai Avay, Samai Talas, he's paid, right? What type of Avas Talas is there by Adam, right? Maybe you say like this, maybe the Av is the person when he's awake and he causes damage. And when he's maybe in the Taladas when he's sleeping. But none. Adam or Yelam Bain Yashan. A person is always a Muad. In other words, if he's always Muad, therefore he's always 100% responsible for his actions. Maybe he spits or something like that, and someone slips on it or whatever it is, and he causes damage, or maybe he spits on someone's food and they can't eat it. I don't know, whatever. So hey, Chidami, what's the case? If we're talking about, in other words, where he actually spit and it was through that, so right? In other words, if it's while it's moving, I'm chayiv. Right, while it's in the air, because I cause it to move. So of course I'm chayiv, right? And if it once it landed, so then it's no different than bor, right? Ella talad the mavet kamavet. Rather, okay, we just said either way you learn mavet, whether it's Shane, it's just like Shane, whether it's Adam, it's just like Adam. So the chikama Rav Papa talad the eish, right? We're moving down now. We're getting desperate. This is the last possibility of maybe to understand Rav Papa's statement. So rather, we're talking about that of Eish. Now, to the Eish, my new. So Ilema Avnav Sakina Masa Shenicham the Aberesh Gago. If we're talking about a case, let's say he left some sort of hazard, right? A stone, right? A knife, right? Some sort of package they left on top of his roof. The Naflu Baruach Matsui, sorry, roof, right? Sorry. That was one thing I tried to correct. Yeah. No, I once tried to correct it and say roof instead of roof, but now I switch back. I have a lot of pride in Chicago, although it's running out. All right, so we say the Navi Baruch Matsuy Vezigo, and now the normal wind comes and blows the knife, right? Let's say off the roof. Say Chidami. If we're talking about, in other words, while it's moving, it causes damage. So I know Aish, that'll be like right, that'll be like the fire. You leave the fire there, the wind blows, and the wind takes it, and it leaves from your yard to your neighbor's yard, Chayiv. So too, if I leave, my knife on the edge and the wind, blows it over and it falls down. So I know Aish. So my Aish, why is it than Aish? So the Koyach Acher Bura Behem is how does fire work? Fire is basically your object used with something normal, right? Another power, i.e. the wind, and you're high for it. And make sure it doesn't happen. So Achinami, Koyach Acher Bura Behem so Ella Talada the Eish Keish. The Amarav Papa Talada the regular. We're going back to Talada the Regel, right? The Regel we said was just its normal movements, right? And it goes about that way. So Regel Hokina Talada the Regel correct. We assumptions. Where it says Bechatzi Nezek Sreros, the Hilchasa Gemira. No, because we're talking about a case of Chatzin Nezek Sreros. Chatzin Nezek Sreros is if an animal is walking, the normal way of walking. So what Talada does is when it's walking, it kicks up pebbles. So it kicks up pebbles, and then all of a sudden it hits one of the wares to a vase, which is by a shopkeeper next door. So the animal was walking. I'm normally responsible when my animal travels on, but I was walking in the road, right? So the halacha is that is chatzin nesek. You pay only half the damage. You pay half the damage. So therefore, this is a case of where this is a talada that's not the same as the av. The av, if it's walking, you're chayav 100%. But if it kicks a stone and creates, so therefore the talada is not like the av. In this case, you're only chayav for chatzin nesek in such a case. The my karli talada regel. Why is it called talada regel? So it says over there, l'shalei min haliyah. Over there that you pay for more. In other words, let's say there's a case of chatzi. I think it's the opposite. One second. So you say the l'shalei min aliyah that if we're talking about 1 second.
You don't pay me gufo.
You only pay me gufo.
You don't not by this.
If the animal is more.
Short time, you pay me gufo.
Right. So over here
you pay me an aliyah.
Right. So in this case, normally, so in this case, that you would have to pay. So let's say the chatzin nezek was more, right? I'm confused to a scenario. So we're talking about over here where the chatzin nezek. I'm just looking for Rashi. Oh, the Shemi Aliyah, right? If he damages more than it's worth, right? Then he even pays it out of pocket, right? He comes out of pocket. So in other words, so let's say my animal is worth a certain amount that it caused the damage and it ruined your Mona Lisa or whatever it was. So I don't have to pay out of pocket, right? So it says over there, so why is it called Talad the Regel? Show me the live over here to come to teach you that you do have to pay out of pocket. That just like the Regel, you have to pay out of pocket to pay what you actually damaged. So it's over here, you have to pay out of pocket to what you actually damaged. You can't just say, hey, take my animal, whatever it covers, they caused the damage, it's worth $120. So, that's what you can do. No, you got to pay out of pocket. So Gemara says, it's so pashut. Rava has this question, right? The boy Rava, chati nezek tzaras migufa mishalim. I mean, aliyah mishalim, right? Is it only from the animal, or is it from an aliyah, right? So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. Rava asked the kasha, right? The Rava migoy, the Rapapa b'shitulei, right? Yeah, Rapapa did ask the question, but Rava asked the question, but to Rapapa it was pashatim. The Rava migoy, so my karle, so it says, my karle told the regular. That's the case according to Rava. Why would it call it told the regular? So it says the paitra to Rishus Harabim. So it says the pater from Rishus Harabim. If it occurred the regular in the Rishus Harabim, then in other he would be pater. Now, yeah.
So we're getting rid of this Papa. We're concluding that Papa's
his
statement was only referring to that case of Tzuros.
Right. In other words, when he says something like it's the Av and other words are not like it, 95% of Tolados are like their others. There's one unique case that's not, which is
right. So, but there's machlokas there, I think, right? If it's mamon or kanas, right? That's Tzuros, right? That's the Tzuros. So, but according to this, it would have to be a mamon, right? Because regel is not a kanas.
So right, according to this, right? According to Rav Papa, that's why it's a talad of that, right? Because it's attached to it is you pay out of pocket. So it's over here you have to pay out of pocket. Yeah. So Hamaver, so we say it over there, Maver there. So my Maver, so Rav Omar Maver is Adam, Shmuel Omar Maver is Hashem. So Rav says, right, it's Adam. Shmuel says it's referring to eating, right? So Rav Omar is Adam. The pasuk says. So Amar Shemer Asa Biker V'Gam Laila Im Tivayun Vayun Bayun. Right. So the pasuk is in Yeshaya, right? So it says over there, right? So it says Shemer Asa Biker V'Gam Laila. Sorry, right? Tivayun. Right. Tivayun is lashon from Mava. Right. So that's how it is. So over there is referring to the man. Shmuel Amar Mava is Hashem. L'chsiv Eich Nachmasu. Esav Nivu Mespunav. So it says over there that his right. So that which he has, Esav has, he was attacked. That which he has is that which was hidden will be searched.
You say Shane, when you say Arba obviously leaking a shore before Ramada, shore. So
then Shane, right? The Shane Lachar wouldn't be included
in the
in the shore, right? Maybe the shore,
shore.
right? Right. So there's right. So the shore over there is referring to goring, right, or walking, not but not eating, right? Yeah. So the Gemara will soon say. So keep that thought for a second, right next to each other. Now, so we say, so Kumatargim Rabbi Yosef, so my mashma. So where it says Kumatargim Rabbi Yosef, like Rabbi Yosef taught. So it says, Echdin Is Belesh Esav Tayalgun Mitarohi. So it says over there that his things were exposed. In other words, those things were exposed. And what is something that is covered, right? That's hidden, then exposed. That's similar to teeth. Right, teeth, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes they're hidden. Right, the mouth is closed, sometimes they're open when they're smiling or eating. So Rav, my time Shmuel. So why would Rav not say it's like Shmuel? Samala Miktani Niva. Right. So our Mishnah says Mava. Right, sort of like the active. Right, Mava, not Nifa. Right. Over here it says Nivu. Right, Niva, which is passive. So Miktani Niva. So Shmuel, my time So Shmuel is there. So Miktani Boya doesn't say Boa, it says Mave, right? So the word over there says Imtivayun, right? So over there it says Miktani Boa. So Michli, so Karle Kamar Daiki, Veloy Kamar Daiki, right? So Rav, my time Shmuel. So okay, Lamaisa, neither one of them are exact. Now it says Mave, and both psukim they brought, neither one are identical. Right. So my shore, so Tani shore, V'chol Midah the shore. So therefore, so he says no shore in any matters of shore. So in other words, and therefore, so Rav. So why did they say Shmuel? Because Shmuel was the one who said that that was referring to Shane. So Rav would say almost like you were saying before that it already has it. V'chol Midah the shore. Shmuel Nami Tani shore. So Rav Yehuda it's Tana shore lekarno. No, that which you're right sure was only for goring, and now which it says Mab is referring to Shane. Achi Kamar Loiria Karen Shein Hana Laziko Kari Hashain Sheyesh Hana Laziko. Right, and we're saying that these two are different. That's why I listed these in order. Right, if you notice in the Mishnah is sort of funny, right, because it mentioned Shor Bor Mada the right, and that says, and then why'd you need all four? And then it started, so there was 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then it said, well, 1 and 3 are similar, right? And then I was, why'd you go in that order, right? 1 and 3, right? So he said, Vachi Kamar, right? So Vachi Kamar, Leiriya Karen Shane Hanala Ziko, Kriya Shane Shish Hanala Ziko, right? In other words, the damages of goring is not the same as that eating. Right? And therefore in those, and you can't say that Shane, right? Because the Shane's purposes were for Hana, it's not like that of goring, which is not for Hana. So Gemara says, I love Kavachleinu. So just a little further down. So it says, I love Kavachleinu. It's not Kavachleinu. Ma Shane Shekanas Lahazik Chai, Karen Shekanas Lahazik Lakoshke. If something doesn't intend to damage your Chai, if it intends to damage your Chai. So Gemara says, no, eats chicken. Right? Let's say a case of an Eved Ivri, an Eved Knaidi or Eved Ivri, right? Right, Eved Vama. So you say over there, Eved Vama Lav Afagav the Kavras Lahazik Afilohafia Patiri. So over there we say that an Eved Vama, that the master, the owner is pater for their damage. So too over here. Right, it's no different. In other words, when there's intention. So Rav Ashi, there's a reason. There's a svar over there why the master is pater. Why? What's going to happen? Right? Maybe the slave is going to get angry at his master, and he knows that if I go ahead and destroy my neighbor's property, my master is going to have to go ahead and pay. I'm going to go ahead and do that to him, right? So in order to prevent that, we'll say that the master is not chayiv for the Eved's doings. And he says, he could be mechayiv him every day. So Ella Parichachi, rather say like this. This is what the Mishnah meant to say. It says, Lori hakeren shekvanas lahazik, kariya shein shein kvanas lahazik, right? The damages of goring, right? Whose intentions are to gore are not like that of eating, which his intentions are not not damaged. Right. Lori hashen sheyesh v'ana laziko, kariya karen shein ana lazika. And then therefore, so that we can say it back the other way, that the teeth, that the eating, right, there is benefit to the damager, right? That you don't have that when there is no benefit to the gore. Nevertheless, that's why each one is separate and both have to be taught in the mission. All right, we'll stop here. Welcome to Baba Kama. And Hashem tomorrow.